Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine webinar Wednesday. My name is Untitled. Today we look at how to build three-dimensional models. We build all kinds of amazing things, including a hammer, among others. Lots to do, so let's take a look. As always, I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Illespak, who is our resident architect. And like I said, today's topic is about building three-dimensional models. So far, we were working with preset models, doors, windows, slabs, other architectural pieces. But now we are going to look at what happens if you have to model these things by yourself, what kind of tools you can use and what kind of opportunities they hold. And that's what we are going to look at today. As always, I urge to ask your questions on the right-hand side in the chat bar, so make sure you check in on us. You would need to have a YouTube or Gmail registration to be able to comment, but please keep the comments coming, because at the end we are going to look at the questions and answer them in detail. Iles, tell us in a couple of words what we are going to discuss today.
Well, first, I would like to show a few things about the surface decoration tools that, in which case I mean there are those ceiling decoration profiles and things like that. Let me just quickly reshape this. I think I'm happy with a narrower size and height will be fine, just like this. I will just align it to this position, and then I will just draw two other profiles. Let's just say this should be around, I don't know, 0.6 as height, and so I just created something, and then I would like to create another one here, and this is how it goes. You just use this interior sweep tool, sweep, and then you need to click on a surface, telling the software that this is the area where I would like to work on now, and just click there. And then you just literally draw. You just start. I'm using the same values. I'm just clicking here and saying, okay, this direction, this should be, I think it was 1.5. And this direction, this should be 2. And this direction, again, 1.5. And again, let's just close it back on 2. And then now I have this decorative item. This is coming by default with wooden material. I can, again, change its cross-section profile, and I can change its material. Let's just go with this cream material, and this is how it looks like. See, I have the same result.
But now it's parametric, so you can fine-tune the path.
And I can see the path. I did not set up the height, so it is on a different level. And so let's just set it. I think I used the same value. I used 0.5, and in case of the other one, so I'm just pushing it back to 0.5. So let's just zoom back in. So now we can see that they are aligned, and then I can just move this around and again make the same alignments. And the point here is that this is always rectangular, but this can be changed at any time later during design. I can say that, well, okay, let's just imagine that this is a little bit smaller, and it has a breakpoint here.
So you can fine-tune the path.
And it perhaps is actually an L shape instead of a rectangular shape. So now I have 1, 2, and I just flip it around and create a second one. Let's just make a little space here. And then I'm just literally finding it on where it's on my floor plan. It's here, and then I just use this and the mirror copy, and I think I use this center point, and then what I'm getting is this here.
Perfect. So these are the tools that you can use to create a kind of molding or cornicing. Obviously, there are other dedicated tools for that, but that would be the way to go. I understand that there are scenarios when you want to have something on the ceiling as well, maybe a curved shape. How would you do that?
Yeah, well, if that is a ceiling, I can use the same sweep tool and click on a surface and draw it around. But now, this time I would like to show how that works in the 2D, so I'm just literally removing this from here. I think it appears around that part. It's over there, yeah. So let's just go back and design it. So I'm again using the sweep tool, sweep, and let's just create something rectangular. I think I will just, start from the same points like this here and this here. I just would like to align it together with the other one, and like here. And I think I just, I'm just referencing the original point, so I can create a closed loop. And when I hit enter, I get this. And now it's a situation when the cross section is not looking good. If I just create it like this, it's better as a frame around the room or something like that, because the the cross-section profile is facing inwards this whole shape. So that's the time when you should go and change the cross-section profile, and instead of literally selecting something else, you need to go to the profile properties, and then you can just rotate it. Let's just find the best position. I think this would be, again, not cool because
it should be upside
it's
down.
Upside down. This should be the perfect one. And let's just double check it. Yeah, it looks okay. It's the decorative part is looking downwards. So let's say, and I use the same cream profile. I mean the cream material. Okay, and then I have this. But I cannot see it in the 3D because when you design on 2D, items are expected to be created on the floor or on their, of course, default values, and the usual default is the floor, the 0.
I see. So it's on the floor. It's around the carpet, right?
Yeah, it's around there, I believe. And so what we will do now, it's even way below that.
Oh.
So I just let's imagine. I don't know what's the value over there. I could measure it, but now I would like to show you a perfect tool how you can align them. Let's just raise it. Let's just elevate it and to, I don't know, 2.5. Now it's there, but they are not perfectly aligned together in the 3D space. So in that case, what I do, I just, what's the task now? The task now is that I would like to align this new profile with the other one perfectly as their top is at the same level. So what I'm only interested in are those two things. So I just select those and I use the hammer to rebuild the 3D, and when you select something and hit the hammer tool, then only those selected are represented in the 3D. So now the task is much simpler than before because there's nothing else which I can accidentally click to or something like that. I can see only these two items, so I can click on this one and click on the elevate, move, and let's just align them together at their top profile. And then now they are perfectly aligned, and I can go back to the 2D and click on the 3D hammer to rebuild the whole model, and then I'm just going back to the 3D space. And then I would like to show you one more other thing, which is the same. Yeah, which is the same with what I did on the wall surface, and that's how you can customize this whole thing. It's quite a large model, so it takes a little while until it updates, but now we can see the result. And then I just make a curve like the other ones around. So I just go here and I select this here, and then let's just show it here how it works. You just use the turn into curved edge, and then you just, you can even set up the radius, diameter, perimeter, and so on.
From then on, you can customize it any way you want. The point is that you can, if you have a kind of polyline shape, then you can just distort it into a way you want it to.
Yes. And now we have this, and actually you can even change its surface resolution. So if you see it is too much breaking up into parts, then you can just increase the resolution to a higher resolution, so you will have a better curve, which is much better than before.
Now I understand that there's a similar tool in our software which is called the Loft tool, but it has a kind of similar at the same time different application. So can you tell us about that tool?
Yeah, the Loft tool is in many terms it is similar to a sweep because it is a tool that allows you to create something swept along a path. Let's just see how it works. And now, by default, again, this looks like a decorative profile. I have a vertical path, and I have this cross-section profile moving along that path and creating this cross-section. The tricky thing with the Loft is that this can change its own shape during the, passing through this path. And how that works, let me just quickly show. If I use the same cross-section profile, I can actually add another cross-section profile somewhere at the other end. Let's just push it to the top. There was one, and there now I create another. And then if I only change its size, let's just double it. Okay, so let's just use it 2 times this. And 2 times this, and I think you can already see what happens.
Yes.
It is,
it transforms from one point to the other. So the thing what is happening here is that the cross-sectional profiles change how the model distorts. So you can have as many profiles as you want.
Yes.
But these would govern how the model looks like. And there's another interesting aspect to the Loft tool is that you can define the path itself.
Yeah.
So if you have another profile, let's say you have a kind of curved shape, then you can add that this is going to be the path along which these 2 profiles would distort the shape. into basically whatever you want.
So this way you can actually, you actually have a very flexible organic modeler tool that allows you to design something that is changing its profile when it's when it's passing through the 3D space. Now, to show you an even more interesting example, let's just go back to the simple one so we can see how it looks like. And you can actually change the shape itself. So you don't have to use the same cross section. That's the whole point. You can change the cross section itself. You can use a circle or anything else. And now it is transforming this shape and changes it into a circle and then into a rectangle or into anything else. So this way you can model something. If you look around and you can see, for example, the handle of that hammer that you just showed before. This is actually changing its cross section profile, and then all around us there are objects having the same, like legs of the furniture and so on. That is, if you look at them that way, you can model how it looks like. Let me show you two examples. I think it better describes how this works. Let's say, okay, let's use this again. This is the sweep Loft tool, and let's just start with the same thing, but this time I'm using a circle profile. I'm just using this one. I'm going to the details.
This is the hollow circle, right? So this is going to be the
well, this is the filled circle, but yes, I can use a hollow circle. Now I will use this, but yes, we could use that. Let's just go with a different shape. I mean, a different size. This should be perhaps. Let me just disable this. I just would like to use an ellipse. I mean a smaller circle, so this should be 0.3 and well, 0.3. Yeah, and okay. And I think it's too long. And actually, by myself, I would like to design this path. I'm not happy with vertical. I'm having a drawing, and then I would like to trace, for example, a curve of a tap. So I'm just clicking on Create a New. Yeah, I just would like to use a custom profile, and then I'm just literally, clicking around and saying, okay, this is, I don't know, around 10 centimeter tall, and there is a smooth arc, and it looks like that. And I'm happy with this. You can also create another shape and say, okay, so this is the shape of it now. I see, yeah, okay, sorry, this is a hollow circle, but so this way you can create a pipe, other sort of thing, and then you can say that, okay, this is the first cross-section profile, and the second cross-section profile is actually perhaps the same thing at the bottom. And now that I have created both section profiles, I can change the shape of this one, for example, and saying that, well, okay, this should be, I don't know, wider, like 3 times wider than the other one, and this way I can create something like this, which could be a good thing for as a handle of something, a specific tap or something like that. You can even add another cross section and saying, okay, I would like to create another one somewhere in the center with a different size. Let's just add it and change it to say, okay, this here is actually having a different size, and then the software recalculates the whole thing. You can change it the other way around, saying that, okay, this is like this, and perhaps it is changing the shape the other way around. So this it's only a fantasy that that is making the difference. That how you can break this thing down to smaller cross sections and imagine how it passes through. So that's one of the things.
You mentioned another example, and that would be based on another 2-dimensional drawing, right?
Yeah, and that's if sometimes you can see those decorative items all around in case of furniture or in case of elevations, which is kind of this twisted shape moving around. This looks like a rope or something like that, and then it goes like this. You just use the sweep tool, Loft tool. And then I'm just using the same vertical item now. And now what I do, I just quickly create a specific cross section. Let me just quickly draw it by myself before using the circle tools. And I think it's okay if it looks like this. And
just an approximation.
Just an approximation, yeah. Something like this. And then so this is the cross section of this whole thing that I'm about to twist around. And let me just clean it up.
In about 2 weeks, we are going to have a webinar about 2-dimensional.
Yeah, we will cover these as well. Yeah,
we'll show you how all this works. But let's now focus on the drawing itself.
So now I'm using the same sweep loft tool, and then now I will use this 2D drawing as a cross section here by clicking on the define profile, and then I'm just using this closed loop. Click on an inner point of an area, so I'm just literally filling it up so the software recognizes it. I'm using the center point somewhere around here, perhaps like this, and this will be the center point. And now I have this here. I add another one at the top, just as I did before, so we just repeat what we did earlier. And then I add the torsion, and that's actually a twist. Let's make it 100%. So it makes a full circle, an update. So this is what you get.
I see, so
and
that's
again,
how you get a twisted shape.
And again, the surface resolution depends on this first setting here. If you make it higher, then the surface will be smoother. And this way you can even design such a thing.
Now, one issue with elements that you create like that is that they are not going to have any intelligent architectural data yet, but you have to do some kind of transformation with them in order to use them as such. Let's say an example, you created a door, or maybe you downloaded a door.
Yeah.
How do you turn it into an architectural object? I see
actually
you
have a door here.
already over there. So.
Well, this door is a downloaded object, but using the 3D modeling tools of ARCHLine, you will also show a few examples, either using the 3D sweep or something like that. You can actually literally model a door even, or a door panel, or anything else. And I think now it's here in the 3D space model. Let me go back to an axonometric view. So it's like that. So you can imagine that you have a panel. You can even use the KBB tool, the cabinet door, which we will again cover a little bit later, and design such a shape, and then save it as an object, which is you select this whole thing around and say, okay, this is a single object, a new object, and then you name it. And that's the point when you can turn it into a door. In the same way, you can turn a specific object into a window as well. The difference between a door and the regular object is that if you put a regular object on a wall, it won't do anything with the wall. I will show you a specific example which is against this, but by default it's not doing anything with the wall. If you would like to use it as a door, you need to tell the software this is a door, so you must cut the wall so we can pass through the door. So that's the final step, which I'm about to show you now. You have a door which is now an object, so you select it, and then you go to the building, door, and new door, and then you say, okay, you would like to convert an object to a door. And then because I already selected it, the software recognizes it, okay, that will be a door, and it creates a 2D top view of that whole thing. And then you can just align these, because this will be the literal door shape. I don't want to include the knobs as part of the the door panel itself. They will appear, but they won't change the shape of the hole or something like that. The only thing that you need to take care of, that if you know which side you prefer to be as the front of the door, this little needle should point to that direction. I'm imagining this is the front of my door, so I do that. But if I just would like to do it the other way around, I can just turn it around and align these points to the other side. So
that's important to remember, that if you just create a door or download one from external libraries, you have to do some extra work to turn them into objects that you can use for architectural purposes. I understand that you have another tool to show us with which you can create certain decorational elements.
Door in a wall, I don't know, 100 or something like that. I'm just naming it, and then let me just quickly. No, I don't want to overwrite it. So I just created a new one. So let me show you how it works in the door, and then I will cover this other decorative items. So let's just use the door and place it over here. So, and like that, and now you have it here. And to close this topic, if you even would like to change the 2D shape of this door, you can right-click here and say you would like to change the 2D group to something that you already created. You can draw that group and save it. And I just created a little drawing here to tell you how you need to define the hotspots, the reference points of the group, the door symbol. So this should be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like a Z shape, and then save it, and then you can just use it. If you use another order of these points, then it won't work.
See,
This
so
is the
that's
way
exact
it works.
way to do it.
Okay, so you mentioned what topic?
The insets. There's a specific tool in ARCHLine where you are able. I think there's a better way. Maybe first we want to show what we want to achieve, and then we explain how we do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but you know, it's going to be about insets. That's no secret. But let's see how we make something like that. This is a company logo on a decorative wall, and we want to see. So that's the end result that we want to achieve.
As you can see, this is actually a wall.
Yes,
yeah.
and that's very important because this is never ceases to be an architectural element. But how do we do something like that? So how you would start creating this?
Okay, so
shape?
first we started with something like that. That was a question of our users. How can I do something like this? There are many ways, but I think this is one of the best approaches what you can do when you would like to cover like this. So I broke it down into several steps. The first step is that I have the image. I have something that is my goal. The second is I need to obtain the logo somehow, or I need to draw it by myself. Now there are many ways. Now what I did, I just downloaded a logo as an image from, I just Googled for it and I pasted it, kind of scaled it to a proper size that I'm imagining as a good size for this logo. And then I just used the 2D tools, the drafting tools to track it and create closed loops. That's the point.
So
I just used curves and lines and polylines and splines to draw it around. So I have a drawing. Now let's just remove this image for a while. So this is what I get at the end. Okay. So how this is turning into a 3D symbol. I mean a 3D object actually. Now to turn this into a 3D object, we can use all the tools that you will show soon. Which is here. These are the 3D modeling tools. But I'm about to show you another one, which is, again, a very useful tool. It's a 3D shape. Now, 3D shape is allowing you to build up a 3D shape based on 3 specific profiles, which, if you want, you can define all of them. Now, I'm about to define only one of these, only this one, the front one. And then I just say that, well, I did not save this profile earlier, so that's the time now when I'm defining it. And then let's just close, let's just go and say, okay, this is a multiple profile. It's actually built upon multiple profiles. So
which are not touching each other.
Yep. Okay. And then I'm saying that the first one is a closed loop, which is a point of an area, and it's here. And the second one is, again, it's from here, but it's a profile with an island. Now, when we talk about an island, that means if you see this one here, this outer contour has a floating shape inside within it. So that's what we call an island. So when I click here and I click into this shape, then the software recognizes it, and it's avoiding the floating island, skipping it. And then I'm going and saying, okay, this is another one. And another one, and this is again something with an island.
There's an island in it which you don't want to include.
Yeah, so and let's just select that, and this is again just a closed loop, and I think this has no island, so I just go with this one, and then I'm done. I'm just saying, okay, finished, enter, and then it turns it into something like this. And now the only thing that I'm not satisfied with it is it's just the depth. All the rest is automatically calculated by design. Let's just change it to, I think, 0.05, 5 centimeters is fine. And then I just say, okay, I'm done. And I just place it. And this is how this was created. So it's this one, the same thing. And this is still a 3D shape. And to turn this into something that we can use as a decorative, inset, yes. We need to turn it into an object. And the reason to that is that object has an option to use it as an inset. The 3D shape has no option like that.
Yeah, so first you have to turn it into an object, which can handle in ARCHLine the way you want it.
Yeah.
So how does that
work? The same way I did before with the door, I can select this 3D shape, which is still a 3D shape, and go to single object, new object, and just name it properly, and then make a copy of it and place it. And this is how this was done. This is the same thing, just now it's turned into an object, and I actually named it logo 3D object. And now we can paste it into a wall. And actually I already have a wall here, this one. Now only one specific thing for this wall is that it has something here in the corner which makes a specific vertical inset.
And what is
like
that?
this. And that is, if you select it, we can see that this is actually column. The column is by default set in a kind of different way. Let me just move a copy of it and demonstrate how that looks like. Now, originally, a thing like this is defined as it should be inserted into a wall. So now if I'm just placing a specific column, any sort of column, I'm just using the building column tool and place it down, and I just move it next to the wall, for example, this is what happens. It's actually just simply inserted into a wall. And the reason to that now they are not occupying the same 3D space at the same time, which would be not good if I would like to extract volumetric information and so on. So, but the whole thing with this one is actually, if you would like to use it for other purposes, you can just enable this option, the make only hole in the wall, and in that case it's like a negative imprint in this wall. And this is how I created this. I just put down a proper sized column. I use the same material like for the wall, so that's why it's with the same color. And then what I'm doing now, I know that this wall is actually 5 meters long. And what I also know is that I would like to repeat this every 10 centimeter steps.
How do you do that? There's a way to
So
do an array.
yeah, there is that thing which is good for graphical. If you just testing, and then you say I would like to see 50 pieces of this, and I just would like to stretch it and see what's the result. But if you already know the values, then I think this is a better way to select it and say edit, duplicate. Well, actually we will multiplicate it. So you just select with which point, and before I just define with which point, I actually would like to make several copies. I would like to repeat it 49 times. And then I pick this point, move it to the right, and say this is 0.1 centimeter, and then it's done.
See. So that's how you make a kind of repeating pattern inset into a wall.
You can do the same thing with vertical patterns, just in that case you need to use the 3D. So
What's
now
the
I
next
have
step?
this, and to insert this into this design, all I need to do is to move this, move it with a specific point like this, and I think I just paste it over here, elevate it to the proper space. I mean, this should be a meter or so. And then what I need to do is to find the same option. It's make only hole in the slab, and this is how it goes. This actually is removing itself from the wall. I think perhaps I need to move it a little bit downside, so I can get this idea. I can get this 3D shape. I think I did not insert into wall. Sorry, this is for the slab.
Yes.
Insert into wall and make only hole in the wall, and then it happens.
And there it is. So if you zoom in, you can see.
Now it's too tiny, so we cannot see any logo appearing. But if I use the proper size,
the idea. So that's how you would do something. Like
I will have the same. And this actually here is the right hand side with a different shape, and that's here. This one. This is an object with the same setting.
Perfect. So that's how you achieve something like that.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what happens if you have to really work from scratch, do something from the beginning. What kind of tools are in ARCHLine to work with to create something from nothing? I'll use this project for now to demonstrate the basics. So what happens in ARCHLine is that there are tools under the drafting 3D menu which are special in their kind. Special because they can only be used effectively in the 3D window. Most of the tools in ARCHLine can be used either in the 2D or 3D, but these are limited to the 3D window, and I'll show you why that is. So let's say you want to create a shape. You just go with the extrude command. What this does is that you sketch a polyline and then you extrude it. It might be familiar from other three-dimensional drafting software. I'm just going to zoom in here, and I think.
So to be able to use this, first you need to have a surface.
Yes, you need to have a surface, but you can just put it down anywhere you want. This might be a bit risky because then you might end up merging to points
Anywhere
which
in
are
the 3D space.
yeah. But let's try it as it is right now. I can show you how to make this a bit more effective later on. So let's start with a shape like that. These kind of snapping points work here as well.
Okay,
so
I see. This is the head of the
that's
handle.
right.
Okay.
So you hit enter, and then you can just start to extrude it, or you type in the value. I'm not really sure how high this hammerhead should be, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. It's very important that you can't see anything in the 2D window yet. This items don't have a 2D representations because they are somehow in between existence and non-existence. So this is just a 3D shape. This is not going to behave like an intelligent object. If I push this into a wall, nothing will happen. So
this is what we call a 3D solid. They are not architectural
It's exactly
items.
a 3D solid, but it's a very good thing about it is that this could be acting as a base shape from which you can hatch or extrude other things. Let's make a handle to it. So if I want to, for instance, use the push-pull with profile definition tool, what this does is that I have to just select a face, and then I just have to say that I want to have a circular item here. I have to set up the radius. It should be something like 0.2 maybe. Oh, that's too large.
It's rather large.
0.05 maybe. And I just insert it and I just extrude it. So that's how you, and from now on these two items behave as one, right?
Yeah.
So it's not two different objects, but it's one, and then you can just rotate it, turn it upside down, you can color it, and then you can save this into an object. But that's when the intelligent part comes in. That's when you can start working with it effectively. Otherwise,
where did you click to rotate? Can you show that again?
When you click on an object, the 3-axis appears. And by clicking on the
arrowhead.
Corresponding one, the arrowhead, you can rotate it into any kind of...
Along that axis, okay.
And this also works with the sort of horizontal rotation, and also you can rotate it this way.
Flip it around.
So that's what you do. Just to reiterate, with the 3D item, you can use all these elements on existing or not yet existing 3D solids. You can just hatch them into something like this. Now let's see an actual example, because just creating hammers is not something that we do every day. So I'm just going to create a baluster. And that would give you an idea of how these tools are meant to be used. Because usually you're not just going to jump into the 3D and just start sketching things. You would start with a drawing. And let me tell you about this project here. What you see is an image of turned balusters that we somehow want to model. Now, what we did is that we resketched these things as two-dimensional chains, right? So these are two-dimensional drawings.
You used the image, perhaps?
Yes, I did use that.
You draw on top of it.
First, it was a bit distorted. I asked my graphics guy to make it a kind of like a frontal view, so I could...
Vertical.
It's not actually 100% accurate, but it gets you the idea. So if you are accurate with your 2D drawing, the 3D would be even more breathtaking, but we are just going to work with this right now. So this is the 2D window. So what I have to do, I have to use this as a guide to create 3-dimensional shapes. I select my drawing, hit Ctrl+C, and like always, I add the grabbing point, and I go into the 3D window. This thing that you see over here is the work plane. This is not usually visible, but you can enable and disable it here, and that actually helps you to see where's what, where's upside down, and where you should place things.
Well, sometimes it comes to be visible automatically, so that's how you can turn it off.
So what I do is I just copy paste this baluster over here, just like that. And now the next task is to turn this into a 3-dimensional object. And I do this with these tools, but instead of sketching the things, sketching the boundaries, I will use the tool that you use, the fill
recognition
tool. That's right. I have this Revolve 360, which is going to create solids of revolution. Here's what I do. I hit close loop, and I click into the chain what I want to use, and then I just define a rotational axis. I perform the task,
so
and I end up.
That's
right. I end up with a revolved shape. I use the same thing again. Hit close loop, hit on this one, and again define the axis. You have to be careful not to click on anything else, because otherwise it's going to be, inaccurate.
This would be a bit tricky with the Loft tool. It's much better to use this.
That's right. Now, let's see how we create this kind of rectangular parts. I use the extrude, and I'm just going to, I could be selecting the points over here, but that's usually better practice to use the rectangular, sort of...
To trace it.
Yes, the horizontal rectangle. So I just click
because it's only 2 clicks.
That's right. I click here, and I click over there, and I start pulling it upwards, and I think it should be, I'm in meters right now, so it should be 0.08. And there I go.
It's exactly the same like the push-pull tool.
That's right. So I'm just going to navigate a bit so I can see this better. And I'm just going to use the same thing again with the extrude, horizontal rectangle, click, click. And now I can add the value, or I can just snap to an existing item, just like that. It's always good to use existing things, because then your work is just much more efficient. So again, rectangle, and I just snap over here. Okay, here's the next problem. Everything is snapped to the horizontal, the ground level, as you said, but that's no good for me. So how do I align this? I have to select the items which are not in their place, click on the axis, what we talked about before, to define where I want to move them. I start moving them into the direction where I want to elevate them, and I type in the value, which is 0.04, to elevate them like that.
Half the size of the cubes.
That's right. So now I have to put this on its foot. So I'm just going to hit Control, and while holding it, selecting the solids that I created. And then if I click on the...
And you do not select the 2D lines, right?
No, I wouldn't need that, because if it's part of the model, then that would cause some confusion. But,
okay, yeah.
But I don't need that right now. Okay, so it's now put onto its foot. And the next thing I want to do, I want to add some textures to it to make it somehow similar to what I have over there. I think teak would be something that I can work with, and I just drag and drop onto the surface. I just want to replace the material on this object, and I keep on clicking.
And it's important, if you would like to change them later by, I don't know, saying that the cubes are different than the others, then this is the time when you need to distinguish them. So this is the way they will be saved. So if you save it this way with one single material, you will only have the option to change only one material later as well, because you define only one material for the whole thing.
There are two issues here. One is that they are still made up of smaller segments, so I'm not going to be able to effectively handle it as one. The other issue that I have here is that they are not going to be intelligent objects. I have to turn them into one first. So if I want to push them into walls, or I want to make them into a railing, or if I want to use them as an actual railing, then I have to turn this into objects. So I use the same method that you demonstrated here. I just say I want to have an object, select the whole thing, hit enter, enter again, and this is where I can name them and add the beam parameters or any kind of parameters, because now these objects, these solids, will have object-like properties. This is going to be a turned baluster or something like that. Yeah. And I'm satisfied with the result. And now comes the part where I actually use this. I'm not going to show you the whole workflow, but here's the gist. Last time we showed you how to create a railing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I use this balusters to create something like this.
I see.
Now, you see that there are several versions. There's one baluster with an orb on it. I use the same tools with an extra modification, and I created two different objects.
That was also created with the revolving.
That's right. I use the Revolve 360. And now this intelligent railing tool has this primary balusters tab, and over here I can select an object to be featured in this baluster with a preset distance between each other.
What's the difference between a profile and an object?
A profile is basically like what you said before. You start with a cross-sectional profile, which in case is a pretty large.
It's not changing its cross-section then?
No. It's just one single profile which is extruded along the way. It's not like the Loft tool when it changes shapes. It's a pretty large circle, and it's going to be something weird. So I just instead click on object, and from the object library you can select the things that you want to work with. This was. I'm just showing you how this was added. If you go with balusters, you just hit OK and select it. And at the end you see the new wall posts, which work the same way. So you just save this as an object, add it to your railing tool, and then you end up with something like this. Let me just quickly sketch a railing over here. Like that. So that's actually the benefit of working with intelligent objects, because then they can not only... So you first sculpt them, and then you save them as objects, and then you can use them as they are. And if you're not satisfied with the gap between these elements, you can just easily change it. And that's the benefit of working with intelligent objects. Yeah. Now, I think another thing what I could show you is that I have another project which I can load up and illustrate a couple of things that you have already showed, and show how they work in action. And the project that I'm actually going to show you is one of the pet projects of mine. Let me just open up a new project, and I will see it saved
on the palette.
Yes, that's right. I think this is the one. And while this loads, I'll tell you about this project and what this actually is. If you have been to Budapest already, maybe you have seen this site. This is called the Fisherman's Bastion, one of the landmark buildings of the Castle District, built around the 1800s, at the end of the 1800s. This was supposed to be a panorama terrace, which acted as a kind of reminder of glorious past things and people who did great things in the past, but at the same time acting as a kind of tourist attraction.
Yeah.
And what I did is I decided to model the whole thing in ARCHLine, and not the whole thing, but one of the landmark parts, what we just saw in a previous image. And I wanted to see how I can make this happen in ARCHLine and what are the tools at my disposal to make this into a spectacular project. And let's see what I made here. So I loaded up the project in ARCHLine. I'm just going to give you a quick tour so you see what we are going to see over here. So this is one of the towers of this edifice, and there's a couple of things to talk about here, but I'm just instead going to focus on the three-dimensional things, including downspouts and tower heads and all kind of tasty things that we are going to model. Now let's talk about the downspout over here. There's actually a few of them, so let's show how this came to be. This is actually, if I click on it, this is an object which doesn't tell me too much about how this was generated, but I have one example saved over here in which I can show
the original one.
Yes, the original one. Maybe I can just select it. So this is the object, and it's very interesting that this is actually a loft tool.
Yeah.
So what happened over here
example.
is that, that's right, there's one cross section here and another one here, and the changing size gives the shape. One great thing about the loft tool is actually, maybe if I set this to axonometric, I can show you a bit more effectively. So if I select this tool and I hit the Alt key, I see the, sorry, I just need to have another rotational axis. So if I hit the Alt key and I click any kind of things that you have created with the loft, you see the cross sections here.
You can redesign it.
So you would be able to change them. Obviously, this is not going to do too much good to my model, but that illustrates that if you have a loft tool, just hit Alt key, click on it, you enter the component mode, and then you change it the way you want. Another thing what I want to illustrate with the inset that you just created is that this railing over here has this kind of circular but conical holes in it.
Yeah.
So the question arises, how do we make something like that? It's very simple. If I go to if I select this wall piece or this railing and I say show on floor plan, I see the secret behind it. I have
it's a wall.
This kind of, it's a wall, but it has these conical objects inserted in them, which would actually, if I highlight them, I see they actually are inserted into the wall and they make a hole in their place. Now, one important thing about these objects is that if I go back here, I can show you right away where the secret lies. This is actually, again, a loft tool which gives me the opportunity to create something which...
Four different cross-section profiles.
Yes, with four cross-sectional profiles. They actually mirror images of each other, but if you push this into a wall, then it's going to cut its place out from the object. One thing what I can still show you is how I made this tower head with the kind of tiny windows. The great thing about this is that if I elevate it, maybe I can take a peek inside and see, is that there's actually a hole. There's actually a hole in the middle, so you can see through. Now, how do we make something like that? Because you could be using the revolve tool, but then you will end up with a solid. So what do we do here? Here's a very interesting tool that you can use when you work in a 3D environment. You click on the top view, because that will fix your viewpoint and you would avoid the clicking on something that you don't want.
Then you work on a specific plane, in this case the
That's
horizontal plane.
So this is the one of the cross section, the half of the cross section of the tower head, and that's what I'm going to turn into a three-dimensional object. I go again to drafting.
You will revolve it, right?
That's right. Revolve 360, close loop, add the rotational axis, and here we go.
With 2 clicks you define
That's right. I click on it again. Remember, red axis is going to rotate it, and I'm just going to move it
to the center.
Maybe if I instead click on the green one, I can move it without actually
changing the position.
That's right. So I'm just going to approximate it now. I don't have really enough time to make this more accurate, but this would give you an idea. So if I want to position it, I might want to disable the snapping points, because that would make
it's just jumping and
that's right.
shaking.
So I'm just going to zoom in and approximate at this point. I don't need to be too accurate, but just give you an idea. Okay, so I have the tower head superimposed onto the windows. Now
it's still solid.
It's still solid. I have to make two incisions, one into the body and then across the windows.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? First, I'm going to go back to the 3D tools, and I'm just going to say I want to have a push-pull. Click on the surface. I want to have a circle, and this should have a radius of 2.5 meters, and enabling the snapping would allow me to work a bit more easier. Maybe I'm not going to be able to hit the center, but this gives you the idea in any case. So if I hit the tool now, I can extrude and intrude this thing, and I'm just going to snap it over there. So now I drilled a hole into it, and the next thing what I want to do, I want to make a cutout over here so I can see through this window. And here's how I do it. Push pull again, click on the surface, and then I go with a polygon. And here comes a very important thing. You could be making cuts here, but that will not, maybe you are not able to hit the right points that you want to cut, so you just have to click on objects.
Snap to the,
Yeah, snap to
So you don't
else.
have to click on the surface itself. You can refer to other objects, obviously.
Let's try it this way. But clicking on exact points instead of just...
No matter if the cut is larger than the solid as far as it's
So now the cut is done, and I just have to elevate this, and here we go. So that's how you can, obviously you would have to repeat this 7 more times, but this gives you an idea of how to create a shape in which you can make cut, or you can make extrusions, or do all kinds of transformation until it looks something like that. So, it's this tools work the same way as any other tools in ARCHLine. You have to be adventurous and try new things, and that way you can sculpt your models into something that would actually get your ideas.
And again,
across.
talking about this is only one approach of modeling this thing, which is a very good approach, and there are other ways using other tools.
Yes, there are usually more than one ways to achieve the same thing, so it's always up to which is more effective, because obviously you don't want to spend too much time doing menial, repetitive things. You want to be very effective, and that's why you would always rely on predefined shapes and libraries and profiles.
Actually, that's what I'm also teaching. When you see something that you would like to model, perhaps this panel behind us or anything, you need to look at it from an analytical point of view, trying to determine what are the smallest kind of atoms or shapes that you can already define with your existing knowledge, and then based upon that knowledge you just design the parts and then align them together and make something larger. So for example, in this case, what we only used are 2 tools, the revolve and the push-pull, and based on those tools we could create such a complex thing. And I think this is also an answer to one of our questions, which was
question was if it is possible to insert a window or door in a 3D shape objects like in the wall. Like I have a 3D shape, solid block, which I use as a slope ceiling, and I need a window in it. And this is how we actually would do it.
Yeah.
And
this is one way of doing it. Or if you have something else, for example, a slope ceiling can be modeled different ways, other ways as well. But if you can imagine that thing to as a positive model that you can remove from the it's classic bool. When you have one shape and then you subtract it from the other one, so you design the positive shape, put it into another shape and make it negative to remove it. This is the whole idea behind these. And even if we use push-pull or something like that, we just try to break down these complex things into smaller things that we can digest and model.
It's easier to do it that way. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that this gave you an insight at what kind of 3-dimensional modeling tools ARCHLine offers. Obviously, like I said before, feel free to experiment and see how these things turn out, but the point is that you understand the logic behind this. Now, next time we are going to talk about, I think it's going to be about slabs and columns and beams. And actually we are going to talk about how they actually come about, and what are the tools which you can use to create complicated slab structures. I'm talking of beam structures, maybe multiple layers of slabs.
We actually use columns now, but for decorative reasons, next time we will talk about other ways of using it.
That's right. So hope to see you all there next Wednesday at the same time at 3 p.m. and then we'll talk about all these things. And thank you very much for your attention. Keep the questions coming and keep the feedback coming to my inbox. Thank you.
If you like this video,
yes,
like it,
and subscribe to the channel
time.
so you would never miss another show of ours. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time.
See you. Goodbye.